Good morning from Washington, D.C. My name is Margaret Jackson, and I am the Deputy Director for Climate and Advanced Energy at the Atlantic Council Global Energy Center. It is my pleasure to welcome you to this virtual event today in partnership with the Atlantic Council Adrian Arsh Latin America Center, the Wilson Center, Mission Blue, and the Chilean Embassy of the United States. This event marks the launch of the International Partnership on Marine Protected Areas, Biodiversity, and Climate Change, which is an alliance between the nations of Chile, Costa Rica, France, the United Kingdom, and the United States to dramatically scale up ocean and climate action during this decisive decade. We look forward to a dynamic discussion from our keynote speakers this morning to discuss ocean and climate ambition from COP25 to the upcoming COP26 in Glasgow in November and beyond. Now, I am delighted to turn the floor over to our moderator for today's discussion, Professor Dan Laffoley. He is a well-known global expert on ocean conservation from the International Union for Conservation of Nature and Mission Blue. Professor Laffoley, over to you.
Thank you very much indeed, Margaret, and hello everyone. I'd like to add my words of welcome to you to this very special event. A few things before we get started. As you may notice, we're recording this event so that it will be able to be viewed afterwards. We are pressed for time to get all the speakers into the schedule today, so I'll only be giving brief introductions, but the biographies are available on the website that you will have received the link for in the invitation. We also will be operating in different languages. So you will see on the bottom of your screen a button, which is the interpretation button, and you can choose your language there. And then finally, just a brief review of the agenda, the order we'll be going through things. So in a minute, we'll have some opening remarks. Then we'll see the partnership video. Then we'll have some panel presentations and a discussion around that before some closing remarks. So without any more ado, let's get on with this global launch. And it really is my distinct pleasure to introduce Carolina Schmidt, the Minister of Environment of Chile and COP25 President, to give us some opening remarks. Minister, please.
Thank you, Dan, and good morning and welcome to this event to introduce the International Partnership on MPAs, Biodiversity, and Climate Change. I would like to thank the Chilean Embassy in the United States, and especially the Ambassador Alfonso Silva, the Atlantic Council, the Wilson Center, and Mission Blue for hosting this event, and extend a warm welcome to my colleagues from Costa Rica, France, the United Kingdom, and the United States, who will be joining me today in introducing this new partnership between our countries. And of course, a special welcome to the general public that is tuning in from all over the world. At COP25, the Blue COP, we were able to introduce a mandate to address oceans under the UNFCCC agenda. This was a critical step in promoting ocean and climate action as a single integrated challenge. I want to celebrate that today. Delegates from different countries are meeting in an event organized by the COP25 and COP26 presidencies to jointly determine next steps parties can take regarding the ocean climate nexus. As a global community, we need to continue to link these agendas in our negotiations and at the same time drive forward concrete on-the-ground action to protect our ocean and fight climate change. It was with that mission that at a site event at COP25, representatives from 5 countries came together to answer the question, what is the role of marine protected areas in tackling climate change? Since then, these countries have decided to form the International Partnerships on MPAs, Biodiversity, and Climate Change, an alliance of governments, agencies, and organizations from across the world working together to progress the evidence base around the role of MPAs and biodiversity in tackling climate change. Our vision is for global decision makers to implement MPA networks as nature-based solutions for biodiversity conservation and climate change mitigation, adaptation, and resilience. The National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration of the United States, the Ministry of Environment of Costa Rica, the French Biodiversity Agency, the Joint Nature Conservation Committee of the United Kingdom, and our own Chilean Ministry of the Environment together manage more than 50% of the protected surface of the oceans. Our joint commitment in this matter is a tangible contribution toward nature-based climate solutions in the ocean. Each of our countries has worked in different ways to advance ocean-based climate action at home. Chile's 42 MPAs cover nearly 150 million hectares, which is 43% of our exclusive economic zone. This makes Chile the country with the sixth greatest coverage of protected ocean. This vast MPA network presents us with great opportunities both to protect biodiversity and to help tackle climate change. To implement this agenda in concrete tools, last April 2020, Chile included the ocean for the first time in our updated national determined contribution with our 2030 climate commitments. This new NDC established three objectives that are especially focused on the opportunities that MPAs provide. First, implement management plans for all MPAs in our country, including actions to adapt to climate change. Two, use science and climate criteria to create new marine protected areas in ecoregions that are underrepresented in our current MPA network. And third, to evaluate the co-benefits that MPAs provide in terms of mitigation and adaptation to climate change. It is essential that we bridge the actions we are undertaking in our own countries to collectively build this connection between ocean and climate action. Together, we can identify and implement cost-effective strategies toward a global effort in ocean-based solutions. Marine protected areas are the central pillar for biodiversity conservation in marine ecosystems. But as we will hear today, they offer an important pathway to mitigate and adapt to climate change by the protection and restoration of these critical places. It is very important to say that for each of us to reach our national goals, there are important evidence gaps that need to be filled and tools that need to be developed. We believe a global collaboration between governments, agencies, and scientists is the best way forward to do this important work. As we look forward, COP26 and beyond, we look forward to working together to continue to raise ambition for our climate and our ocean, fostering this as one integrated agenda. With further ado, I leave you with a video to introduce this partnership with our special acknowledgement to the Office of National Marine Sanctuaries Partners for putting it together. Thank you.
Whether we live on the coast or far inland, we all need a healthy ocean. But along with our climate, the ocean is rapidly changing. It's getting warmer, more acidic, and is losing oxygen. All that is hurting wildlife, ecosystems, and the livelihoods of millions of people around the globe. We all know about the need to fight the climate crisis, but many don't know just how important the ocean is in the solution. The International Union for the Conservation of Nature, or IUCN, has clearly stated that a healthy ocean can play a key role in reducing atmospheric carbon. Carbon that's captured and stored in our marine systems is called blue carbon. Carbon is captured by algae, plankton, and habitats like mangroves, salt marshes, seagrasses, and kelp. This living carbon is stored in vegetation or moves through the food chain. And when it dies, it can be stored in sediments on the seafloor. Some habitats also trap sediment and the carbon it contains. Storing carbon in sediments removes it from the atmosphere and holds it for as long as it remains undisturbed. Marine protected areas are essential safeguards for these blue carbon habitats and all the other benefits ocean and coastal ecosystems provide, including storm protection, erosion control, food production, and jobs that support recreation and tourism. There's a global movement to significantly expand the extent of marine protected areas to at least 30% of the ocean by 2030. At a UN climate conference in 2019, a global alliance of government agencies and science experts formed an international partnership to exchange knowledge and expertise on marine protected areas, biodiversity, and climate change, and advance the role of marine protected areas globally. By engaging national leaders and local stakeholders, they aim to show how marine protected area networks can simultaneously conserve biodiversity and help reach climate change mitigation and adaptation targets, creating a better future for the ocean and nations around the world. We must reduce carbon dioxide and other greenhouse gases in the atmosphere now, and do all we can to expand the role that the ocean plays. Right now, we have an unparalleled opportunity to address the linked crises of climate change and biodiversity loss. We're calling on the global community to recognize the essential role that marine protected areas play in providing natural solutions to our climate crisis, and the countless benefits that a healthy ocean provides to all of us. Let's harness the healing power of marine protected areas in the fight to control and adapt to climate change.
Minister, thank you very much indeed for your opening remarks and also for the film. I think together that shows us the importance of the ocean climate nexus, the importance of linking agendas, the critical role that COP25 has played in helping form this partnership, and simply the power of joint commitments and collaboration and working together. What I'd like to do now is move to the panel and to the panel presentations and discussions. And the way we've organized this is to go from the context of the partnership, through to perhaps really quite specific stuff about the goals and objectives of this new partnership. And where I'd like to start is by introducing Andrea Meza, Minister of Environment and Energy of Costa Rica, who will be talking about the broader context, the high ambition coalition, if you like, this amazing coming together of, I think, something like 60 countries to really champion ambition in this area. So, Minister, over to you.
Thank you, Don, and thank you to, the government of Chile, the Atlantic Council, Wilson Center, Mission Blue for convening this important event. And thank you to Minister Schmidt. I think that she was a blue leader, and we had the Blue Cup, which was, this is a starting point for this great coalition. And I think that what happened in the COP is to really highlight the importance of the nexus of ocean and climate. And we know that the science community is telling us all the time how, if we want to tackle the climate crisis, we need to tackle the biodiversity crisis, and we need to include ocean-based solutions as part of all this systemic approach. And this is where we are right now, really highlighting nature-based solutions and ocean-based solutions as part of these strategies that we are implementing and calling for more ambition. And when we are hearing the importance and this call for more ambition is where this element of this, the Biodiversity COP also plays a role. And this is why we also launched the High Ambition Coalition for Nature and People, which is basically looking for the adoption of this 30 by 30 goal during this negotiation. And it is, again, hearing science and trying to implement the protection of at least 30% of the ocean and 30% of land in 2030. And this is where we need to have this integrated approach. We are hearing how marine protected area plays critical role, not only in adaptation, which I think that we have noticed and identified, but also in terms of mitigation. And there are some fisheries, some practices that we know that also liberate carbon dioxide. And we know that we need to have then this integrated approach if we want to achieve our climate goals. And this is the reason of why we launched and we supported this initiative of this MPA partnership, because we truly believe that MPAs play a central role in these strategies. For this reason, we also included a specific goals in our NDCs related to ocean protection. And this is why we are also so committed to expand the marine protected areas that we have within our economic zone. In our case, it is less than 3% of our current economic zone, which is under protected areas. And our goal is to move, and we want to leave it in this government and move it to 30% under protected areas. And we're working very hard to expand Coco Island, for example, and other critical areas that we have in our economic zone. But this is just to highlight why we are promoting the Hack for Nature and People. We keep on moving and promoting the adoption of these ambitious goals, but also why we are part of this partnership, because we know that we need to work together. If we create just one marine protected area here, but there are other countries and they are not creating other marine protected areas, then this will not work. We know that everything is interconnected, that as we had inland, that we needed biological corridors. It is the same view that we need to have migravías and other marine corridors also working and protected. And for this reason, we are very excited and very pleased to be part of this MPA coalition. Just one element, we think that we need to continue working with other countries to engage more countries to be part of this partnership, to engage more NGOs and another scientific community. The more we are, the stronger we are, and the more elements we will be able to tackle biodiversity and climate crisis. Dan, over to you. I will leave it here.
Thank you very much indeed, Minister. And I think really powerful words about the role of science, the role of ambition, and the need for integration, joint action, and building this, taking the opportunity now and building this partnership and moving forward. I think one of the things as we move on to our next distinguished panelists that we talk about quite a lot is this nexus between climate change, MPAs and biodiversity. And it's my distinct pleasure to introduce Stéphane Crozat, French Ambassador for Climate Change Negotiations, to tell us a little bit more about this aspect. Ambassador.
Merci beaucoup, Dan. Merci.
Thank you very much, Dan. Thank you to everybody for this invitation. I am so pleased that we have been able to establish this partnership, which really highlights the importance and the interconnection between protected marine areas and biodiversity. This interconnection has been strengthened more recently on June 10th with the publishment of an important joint report on climate and biodiversity. And this is the first time that these two important scientific organizations came together to publish a joint report. For a long time, France has been highlighting the need to have collaboration between these scientific organizations, and we are so pleased to see the publication of this joint report. I'd like to just highlight a few highlights from this report that came out just about 2 weeks ago. And these are points that are very useful in terms of international negotiation that we can highlight. First of all, the importance of restoring ecosystems. This is one of the least costly solutions and which will have enormous benefits for biodiversity, for the climate, but also in terms of job creation and opportunities. Also for COP15, France advocated for this idea of restoring 30% of degraded land in order to mitigate climate change and promote greater adaptation. Also, another point that is highlighted is the need to strengthen sustainable agricultural practices and to be able to bring an end to deforestation. Also, another important point that was highlighted was the need to have a holistic approach and to look at all the different aspects that are harmful for biodiversity, such as monoculture, which tends to increase carbon emissions and which is something that has a negative impact throughout the climate. And finally, another important point is the need to increase the number of protected areas so that we can, by 2030, cover at least 30% of land and oceans. Today, we're at about 15% of land and 7% oceans that are protected. So we really need to continue making progress with these protected areas that will help protect our ecosystem that will be rich in carbon and help to protect our biodiversity and prevent climate change. France is advocating for the adoption of these protected areas in COP15 and the Biodiversity Convention. And we are thrilled to be able to pilot this partnership with Costa Rica. And thank you to Minister Meza for talking about the coalition of high ambition for the biodiversity, which will be bringing about a critical mass of countries to ensure that we meet these objectives. We launched at the World Planet Summit in January, about 50 states. We launched this, and now we have about 64 members that are part of this coalition, which means that it is truly a dynamic coalition. And I hope that as we continue moving along, we will get to an even higher number and up to 100. And more recently in the G7 meeting, the ministers of the G7 countries committed to protecting and conserving at least 30% of land and their oceans. We have also a lot of good tools at our disposal to act, such as the UNFCCC standards, which will help us to be able to implement these climate solutions. These solutions need to be part of an ambitious process. And to do that, the COP26 meeting will be absolutely crucial to make sure that all parties and all stakeholders adopt these ambitious goals, and we work on including oceans as well in our goals. We have a lot of events that will be coming up soon, and we can continue looking at how we can have an integrated policy on climate and biodiversity. We had the G7 summit, which was a great success with the adoption of the compact at the G7 summit, and which specifically mentions this objective of protecting oceans, the 30% target. And we also have the G20 meeting and the ministerial meeting in July, and then the leaders meeting leading up to COP26, and then the United Nations Summit on Sustainable Agricultural Practices. And then in September, we will also have a World Congress hosted by France, and we will be looking at COP15 and COP26 and how we can have a high-level dialogue on nature and climate that will be organized on the occasion of this Congress. And I hope that many of you will participate in this extremely important event. These are some of the many opportunities that we have. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much indeed, Ambassador. I think it's really powerful words about the fact it's not just about halting the decline, it is about restoration, it is about increasing protection, and it is the real positive news about countries coming together and working together to see what more can be done in these areas, which is so critical at this moment in time. Thank you very much indeed. If I could now move on to our third speaker, and we're now going to get down into some more details about the partnership, and I'm delighted to welcome Paul Schultz, the Acting Deputy Assistant Administrator of NOAA's National Ocean Office, who I think is really going to start to talk a bit more about partnership goals and objectives. So Deputy Assistant Administrator, please.
Thank you, Dan. Appreciate that introduction. Good morning. As Dan mentioned, I am Paul Schultz, Acting Deputy Assistant Administrator for the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration's National Ocean Service. Thank you very much to the organizers of this event for the opportunity to speak on behalf of NOAA, and more specifically on behalf of the Office of National Marine Sanctuaries, our agency's leading marine protected area program. It is an honor to participate in this panel with such distinguished representatives from the partnership's member countries. I would also like to thank Minister Schmidt for her opening remarks highlighting the importance of this international partnership, and to acknowledge the leadership of Chile and other nations to position the role of the ocean and ocean conservation in mainstream climate change negotiations. The COP25 was a milestone that helped create this partnership, and NOAA is looking forward to actively participating in this alliance to support the critical nature of a healthy ocean at COP26 and beyond. The invitation we received in 2019 from Chile's Ministry of the Environment to participate in the COP25 MPA side event served as the foundation of this partnership. NOAA has a long-standing commitment to assess and address the impacts of climate change on the habitats and resources within our national system of marine sanctuaries, so this partnership was a natural fit. The National Marine Sanctuary Program has recently developed a climate resilience plan, which outlines near-term steps that NOAA marine sanctuaries will take to address climate impacts. This plan recognizes that marine protected areas are a key part of the solution to ocean climate impacts. MPAs have myriad benefits for lives, livelihoods, and our planet. NOAA welcomes this international partnership because we believe that MPAs are a crucial tool to address climate change impacts, and protecting the ocean requires a comprehensive, coordinated global effort. The international partnership on MPAs, biodiversity, and climate change is built on the common understanding that our organizations will work together to strengthen the evidence-based role of MPAs and marine biodiversity in addressing climate change, and NOAA embraces this commitment. Our group's common vision is a future in which informed decision makers and national leaders invest and take concrete actions to implement MPAs and MPA networks as nature-based solutions for biodiversity conservation and climate change mitigation, adaptation, and resilience. We envision a future in which we address climate threats in part through initiatives that protect our marine ecosystems and resources and secure sustainable livelihoods and economic activities. NOAA, along with our partners in this new alliance, will fulfill our common vision by collaborating and working toward a few agreed upon general goals. First, provide updated scientific evidence and information to help national leaders and decision makers better understand the link between the ocean, MPAs, and climate change. Second, produce case studies, best practices, and information to support effective management and implementation of MPAs as one of the most cost-effective strategies we have to protect the ocean's biodiversity. Third, work with partners to make information available for leaders and decision makers conducting international negotiations and reporting to link MPAs, biodiversity, and climate change as contributions to national and international commitments. And fourth and last, provide evidence and tools and address evidence gaps to help countries to develop management strategies and implement effective MPA networks that mitigate climate change, conserve biodiversity, and increase resilience. We're actively working to make information available for the upcoming UN Climate Change Convention's COP26, and we'll continue to prepare for future conventions where we can provide support to decision makers. Climate change is a global challenge that requires global responses. This partnership is a tremendous opportunity for the member agencies and for the global ocean community. And this is just the beginning. Our countries are well positioned to make important decisions for our ocean and our future. This partnership represents an opportunity to explore potential diplomatic, bilateral, and multilateral opportunities. If you have any technical questions about this partnership and/or the contribution of NOAA, I invite you to contact the focal points for the Office of National Marine Sanctuaries or submit your inquiries in the contract section of the partnership's website. Thank you again for this opportunity to be here today. I'm excited for the great work ahead of us and to see what we can accomplish together. Back to you, Dan, for Q&A.
Thank you very much indeed, Deputy Assistant Administrator. I mean, I think when you hear that, what we're really starting to realize is that MPAs aren't just for biodiversity. MPAs are something that can bring mechanisms together, because many marine habitats are full of carbon, and it is about keeping carbon in natural systems in the way that nature intended. And so this is, getting to the core of what this partnership's going to do, and how it's going to support the policy and decision-making arena with case studies, and bring that science together and bring it out. So thank you for those words on that. Very grateful for that. And what I'd like to do now is broaden this into a discussion around the partnership and particular kind of aspects of it. The partnership, I think, has already attracted an awful lot of interest. Because it is at this critical crossroads, if you like, between biodiversity and climate change and the mechanisms we have available. And my first question is to Minister Meza. Countries listening to this and hearing this, and scientists and other interested parties, I'm sure will want to get involved. So how can they join or work with the partnership? Is there even at this stage a procedure to become an active member or participant in this alliance?
Thank you, Don. And I will say that the first message is it is very important to try to engage more countries. And let me tell you something, and this is for all the team and for Carolina, that yesterday the Minister of Peru sent me this WhatsApp message asking how can we engage in this partnership. And I think that this is demonstrating that there is interest out there, there is people committed with this idea. And I think that the more, as I was saying, the more countries, the more NGOs, the more of this scientific community, the better. I think that we have clear objectives. There is a clear view. And I think that if we share these views and these commitments, I think that we can all be engaged and be part of this. One critical element, as with all this, is how can we mobilize more resources so we can be implementing this exchange of knowledge, so we can be having this platform working. So this is a little bit just some ideas. I think that this is an open initiative, and as a partnership, it is very important to try to engage other countries and more partners to be a bigger family. And yes, as far as I understand, there is not really like any particular formal aspects. It's just to demonstrate that it wants to engage and wants to be part of the objectives. And with this, we can start all working and starting with, yes, with this exchange of knowledge. At the end, I think that this is what it's all about, to try to really exchange knowledge, support each other. When we are in the process of creating MPAs, it is not an easy task. And there are a lot of challenges, and we need support sometimes. Just listening to the other experiences, listening that this is important to try to get strength again to continue with the missions that we have. So I think that this is a little bit what this partnership it's all about: inspiration, exchange of knowledge, and continue sharing the same views and commitments.
So, Minister, very much a welcoming to countries to contact the existing countries in the partnership, and on technical sides, perhaps the focal points as well, to build this out as well and as quickly as we can. Yeah, okay, fantastic. Well, perhaps I can now turn to Ambassador Crozat, because obviously this is quite a critical year, both for biodiversity, but also for climate change. We've got the COP coming up at the end of the year. And I wondered if you could say a little bit more about how the partnership is preparing for COP26 in Glasgow in Scotland later this year.
Merci beaucoup.
Thank you very much. Yes, we have a configuration where things are very well aligned, because we have the British presidency of COP, which is extremely invested in this topic. And we feel that the nexus, well, in fact, they don't need to be convinced of the importance of this nexus between protecting MPAs and biodiversity. So they're convinced of this. This is extremely good. Also, with the campaign that the British government organized on nature, which has been part of a series of campaigns, this is also a very positive development. And then we're also very happy to be part of this partnership, France, because the priorities of the partnership are very well aligned with French priorities. First of all, the partnership is adopting solutions on mitigating climate change, solutions for adaptation and becoming more resilient. And so we're very encouraged, as others were saying earlier, to see other countries are interested in joining this partnership. And I think that there is enormous potential, because as we were just saying earlier when we were talking about the ambitions that we have of having 64 countries right now who are part, and 60 out of 64 countries, we see that there is great interest in also doing what we are doing within the partnership. So there's enormous potential for developing the partnership. And I think that where perhaps we need to be vigilant is in the area of financing and resources, because MPAs do, of course, need to truly be protected, and they can't just be something that is on paper. And that's why we, in France, we are trying to really encourage the worldwide adoption of an objective to finance climate at 30%, which will help contribute to financing biodiversity. So the idea of 30 by 30. And so financing climate will also have advantages for biodiversity. And so we're promoting this idea and trying to seek out other donors and other partners and governments.
Thank you very much indeed, Ambassador. And perhaps now I could turn to Paul Schultz, Deputy Assistant Administrator again. So, so now we've got this partnership and we have quite a lot of excitement around the partnership. What do you see as the next steps for implementing the activities that this alliance is planning?
Thank you, Dan. I think the most immediate next step is to begin providing information through our website in the form of FAQs, case studies, and scientific information explaining the links between MPAs and climate change. Our short-term goal is to have information that supports the role of MPAs in conserving biodiversity and addressing climate change impacts available to leaders and negotiators for COP26. The members of the partnership are currently supporting 3 working groups, which are addressing how to communicate and distribute information on the partnership and the role of MPAs, compiling scientific evidence and identifying information gaps on the role of MPAs in addressing climate change, and activities and information to build capacity on MPAs as nature-based solutions for climate change mitigation and conserving biodiversity. In the mid and long term, we will keep working to increase the amount of information available to our audience and work toward future COPs and other major events. We will continue to provide information and evidence to support decision maker and political leader decisions on the ocean and MPAs as nature-based solutions to climate change impacts.
Thanks very much indeed. I'm wondering if we still have Minister Schmidt, or perhaps we'll see what's happening on that. So perhaps I can then open this up to a sort of final round of discussions, and we'll see if we can bring Minister Schmidt back just before the end. So we've heard everything we've heard about this, and perhaps I can go back to Minister Meza to start this this rapid round, if you like. Though we've got a little bit of time. I mean, for you, I mean, it's been a long road getting to this point, and for you personally, and it's the same question to all the panelists really. What for you is the significance of this? What does this really mean in terms of progress and opportunity, and how we move forward?
And Dan, just to be clear, with this you mean the partnership? What does it?
Yeah, the partnership. Yeah, I mean, we've got it now. What's the potential?
What's the potential, and what is the dream? What we see in like next steps? Well, as I was expressing, and I think it was the ambassador as well, I think that it is important to try to engage other stakeholders, because this generates the possibility of a bigger platform with more experts, with more experiences. And I think that this is what the partnership is about. And I truly believe that to tackle the climate crisis and the biodiversity crisis, and to really accelerate climate action, we need whole of government and whole of society approaches. And this means that we really need to expand the other stakeholders that are engaged in these areas. And partnerships are a great tool to facilitate the engagement of different stakeholders. So I think that this is what it's all about. We've been working in other partnerships, as for example, in the climate world, the NDC partnership, and we've been really, having very frank conversations between developed and developing countries. Normally you generate a good atmosphere, different from the negotiations, and which facilitates this interaction, this exchange, and we can be very concrete. I think that at the end, as we were saying, we need to accelerate what we're doing, and this means to move fast and to implement all the commitments that we are saying. And for this, we really need practical elements to understand, to have the science there, to have the resources, to understand the technical challenges, and learn from each other, because at the end, we're all facing the same challenges. And this is the nice thing, that normally developing countries, we're facing the same challenges sometimes where we're talking about these specific issues. And I think that the partnership can really be an instrument where we can be there sitting together and doing this exchange of knowledge.
Thank you. And if I can come to Ambassador Kurzat, it's the sort of same question. What's it mean to you? What's the opportunity here for yourselves, for France? Where could we take this?
Alors, il y a énormément d'opportunités.
Well, there's a lot of opportunity. France is also working to achieve the 30% of AMPs. We're not quite there yet. We're at 25% approximately now. We're trying to create new MPAs in areas near Madagascar. And so it's a very small island off Madagascar, but there's a lot of marine territory there. And that's where we've created the newest MPA a few days ago. So it's a work in progress for us. And this partnership should enable us to work collectively, to be able to have exchanges about the best practices for establishing MPAs, and then how we can truly protect them, because really it's the implementation that's key, that's most important. But what's also important for us with this partnership is to have advocacy with other countries, and for those who are not at all interested in the subject, to try to attract them. To give you a concrete example, East Antarctica, for years and years, we have been trying to establish this considerable, an MPA in this considerable area. But we're always blocked. There's a total refusal on the part of Russia and China. So we have to continually remind our partners, constantly remind these partners, especially those who are not interested in the topic, that it is extremely crucial, that it is essential. And I think that's one of the roles that the partnership can play, this role of advocacy and really promoting the importance of this topic, especially for those who are not at all interested in the topic, to show them how indispensable it is to make progress in order in these areas, and this for to benefit all of humanity and of course nature as well.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I followed the discussions around Antarctica with interest, and all power to everyone to try and protect those waters and many other waters. Perhaps I can now come to Deputy Assistant Administrator Schultz with the same question, before I'll then return for a final question to Minister Schmidt to round off this discussion. But if I could come to you with the same question, I mean, from the United States perspective, where could we take this partnership?
So thank you for that. And I appreciate my panelists' perspectives and think I would say ditto and maybe keep my answer pretty brief. But that wouldn't be like me, so I'll add a little bit to that. And that's simply that the problems that we're talking about, whether marine protected areas, climate change, and biodiversity individually are huge. And collectively, the opportunity that this partnership represents by bringing together a nexus of countries that are focused on this issue is equally huge. And I think the challenges that we all face globally on these fronts are almost insurmountable. But if we can come up with practical examples of practical information that can be used and applied for how the marine protected areas can ameliorate climate change impacts or biodiversity changes, that will be great. That will greatly improve our chances of being able to broaden this partnership, because we need to broaden this partnership and get many more countries involved to address problems that are as big as those that we're talking about.
Thank you very much indeed. And now finally, I'd like to almost complete circle the webinar and come back to Minister Schmidt with a particular kind of closing question, because obviously you're president of the Blue COP25, and so I think you've got a unique insight, having been through that process, about the importance of all this. So my question to you is really, how critical do you think it is that we get this ocean and this nexus between biodiversity, climate change, and MPAs widely recognized as a key part of the solution?
Well, Dan, it is critical. The international community has treated the climate crisis, the biodiversity loss, and the severe changes happening in the ocean as three separate problems. It is essential that we work to integrate these agendas. If you see that the dioxide of carbon that we emit to the atmosphere, 1/3 of that is absorbed by the ocean, causing ocean acidification and increase the threat to marine biodiversity. It's fundamental that we recognize that this also have a synergetic effects that we must address together. That is why, all this agenda must be integrated at all levels: climate and biodiversity negotiation, decision makers, scientists must come together, especially use the tools that we have available in order, to put and get ambition in this agenda as integrated. And we have in the climate agenda very specific tools. We have, NDCs that all countries have to present. We have long-term climate strategies to introduce the oceans and the biodiversity loss in those tools that we need and commit to the international level is essential. And in order to do this, it's very important that we are able to measure. What you cannot measure, you cannot, really manage. We have budgets now of carbono. How every measure that we take contribute to our budget of carbono is essential. And in that sense, this alliance and this partnership is so important because give us tools to measure, to help us measure the importance, for example, of certain actions that we have on the territories, like MPAs. How much, because the cost of an MPA for the country is a big cost. You have to implement also management plans in order to really protect the area. So how that cost contribute to tackle the climate crisis? How much that contribute to tackle the biodiversity loss crisis? And that is so important that we have these tools integrated in order to really make advances in the goals that we need to fulfill. And in other things, for example, when we think in terms so important that now in the negotiations, like Article 6, for example. Article 6 is an economic instrument that helps to advance in the climate action. And when you think of that, you need to think that also, that tool should help, for example, to finance additionality in ocean protection. It is something in the management plans of MPAs, for example. So when you use the tools, you really can make an advance in ambition in order to go for the goals that we need to reach.
Thank you, Minister. I mean, I think, we started by talking about the critical decade. It's a critical moment for the planet, really. I mean, all the science is there. We are the generation that knows, and we are the generation that needs to act, which is why I think so many people are so enthused actually by the news about this partnership. So I'd like to sort of close those discussions there. I'd like to thank all our distinguished speakers, Minister Schmidt, Minister Meza, Ambassador Crozat, and Deputy Assistant Administrator Schultz, very much indeed. I think it's been a good run through both the context, but also the importance of the partnership, our hopes for this partnership, and the opportunity for countries and specialists and scientists to join forces, as I say, at this critical moment for the planet, in trying to do much more in terms of integration. We've heard messages throughout about integration, about ambition, about the power of working together. And now's the moment. And it is also the moment that I now hand on. And I hand on for closing remarks to Dr. Gemma Harper OBE, who's the Interim Chief Executive Officer of the Joint Nature Conservation Committee in the UK. So over to you, Gemma.
Thank you so much, Dan. And may I extend my thanks to you for moderating the event today, and especially to Minister Schmidt and Minister Meza. Thank you so much for your leadership, and to our distinguished panel of speakers. It's a real honor and pleasure to be here with you all today to celebrate the launch of this incredible international partnership on MPAs, biodiversity, and climate change. And as we've heard today, we are really facing twin crises in relation to climate change and biodiversity loss, and particularly for the ocean, combined with other pressures such as pollution and overexploitation. There's a devastating impact on ocean health and its ability to continue to provide functions that are critical to all life on this planet. And it's for that reason that the United Kingdom is putting nature at the heart of COP26. And we're championing the protection and restoration of marine ecosystems with you, with our partners, to improve the ocean's natural resilience and to see a step change in nature-based solutions. And this international partnership is a wonderful example of how we can work together, and I'm incredibly proud of our ability to do that across the globe. We're really grateful to Minister Schmidt and our Chilean colleagues for the fantastic success of the Blue COP, and for raising ocean ambition and putting the global ocean so high on the global agenda, particularly at this time when we are recovering from the devastating pandemic of COVID. We thank the COP president for setting such a high bar, and the Chilean Ministry of Environment for bringing together these 5 countries. We all know that we can only tackle climate change and increase resilience and adaptation if we protect and restore nature on a scale unlike anything we've seen before. And so for the ocean, this means protecting and restoring marine ecosystems that can, when they are well managed, deliver the benefits that we need for people, for nature, and for the climate. As Ambassador Cruiser has quite rightly said, we need to work together to bring about that change. Global collaboration is key to realizing the benefits MPAs can provide. And we have the opportunity this year, through this partnership, to put the ocean and marine biodiversity on that road to recovery. As leader of the Global Ocean Alliance and Ocean co-chair of the High Ambition Coalition, the UK, along with this international partnership, is committed to championing an ambitious global biodiversity framework to be adopted at COP15 of CBD. And this would include the target we've heard about to protect at least 30% of the world's land and of the global ocean in protected areas and other effective area-based conservation measures by 2030, the 30 by 30 target. We're delighted to work closely with Costa Rica as co-leads for the Alliance. And I really do thank Minister Meza and Costa Rica for their leadership on this ambitious but critical target. To tackle the twin crises, we in the United Kingdom, our Prime Minister has announced £3 billion of official development aid to support the international climate finance, and of that, a flagship £500 Blue Planet Fund to protect marine ecosystems and therefore to reduce poverty around the world. And delighted also to see that our French partners have also shown their commitment to tackling these twin crises through practical application for MPA management, sharing their knowledge and best practice for this partnership. And I personally really look forward to seeing what more the partnership can do to lead in this type of knowledge exchange. As we've heard today, the international partnership aims to give global decision makers the tools and evidence that they need to implement MPAs as nature-based solutions, as ocean nature-based solutions. And each of the partners in this alliance brings together skills, expertise, and experience to this fantastic initiative that really does do credit to the ambition of the Blue COP. And these challenges intrinsically link us together through the global ocean, and therefore working together is critical if we are to tackle climate change and biodiversity loss. We must continue with the energy and dedication our American partners at NOAA have shown in understanding the benefits of MPAs to climate vulnerability and in helping us all to launch this partnership. And so I am absolutely delighted that JNCC will be part of the UK's ambition to put nature at the heart of COP26, and that we will all be part of this alliance, this new partnership that will continue to deliver past November for ocean action through the UN Decade of Ocean Action. And it's absolutely vital that we maintain the momentum of the Blue COP on this road to Glasgow, that we're traveling together. And we're delighted to work with our partners to do this. If you have any questions about the partnership, please do visit our website at mpabioclimate.org. And thank you once again to all of our partners, our sponsors, our supporters, and our moderator, Dan, for making today's event possible. And thank you so much for joining us. Stay safe.